This year was expected to be a major breakthrough for Williams in Formula One. With the biggest regulation changes in the sport's history, the team saw a rare opportunity to move closer to the front and eventually challenge for championships in the future. However, instead of a strong step forward, the season has started as a harsh reality check. Since being taken over by Dorilton Capital in 2020 after years of decline, Williams has been rebuilding steadily, and under team principal James Valles there has been clear progress, including a strong fifth place in last year's Constructors' Championship. That result came with a long-term focus, as the team intentionally shifted its attention away from short-term performance and toward developing the 2026 car. Because of this strategy, almost all aerodynamic development was directed toward the new regulations, with the first version of the car entering the wind tunnel in early 2025. Despite these efforts, the team has struggled badly at the start of the season, sitting near the back of the field with very few points. Behind the scenes, several issues have contributed to the poor performance. Early concerns about the car being overweight and failing initial crash test requirements proved partly true. Although the car eventually passed all mandatory tests, the fixes created additional weight problems, which are very costly in Formula One as even small increases can significantly reduce lap time. In addition, Williams has struggled with manufacturing delays and overloaded internal systems, as the new car is far more complex than previous designs. Even with improved funding and resources under new ownership and the F1 cost cap, the team is still catching up after years of underinvestment. The car is not only heavier than planned but also lacks aerodynamic efficiency, and engineers have admitted that performance issues are not just down to weight alone. Another major challenge lies in the mechanical design of the car. Williams has adopted a high-rake concept, where the rear of the car is higher than the front to increase downforce, but this requires a very well-controlled suspension platform. At the moment, that balance is not working correctly, leading to instability issues such as three-wheeling, where one tire slightly lifts off the track during cornering. This reduces grip, disrupts balance, and negatively affects aerodynamics, making the car unpredictable. These issues appear across both the front and rear of the car, suggesting a deeper and more complex problem that the team has struggled to fully understand, possibly due to limitations in simulation tools and long-standing design weaknesses. Despite the car's struggles, Williams still has a strong driver lineup in Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz, but both have already expressed frustration with the situation. Sainz has described the season start as a shock, while Albon has raised concerns about car performance and communication issues within the team. If results do not improve, there is also a risk that other teams could target both drivers, which would be a major setback for Williams' long-term project. Team principal James Valles has faced criticism, but many still support his leadership, recognizing that rebuilding a Formula One team is a long and difficult process with setbacks along the way. Comparisons have been made to other teams like McLaren, who also faced difficult periods before recovering strongly, raising the question of whether Williams' current struggles are just temporary or a sign of deeper structural issues. The immediate focus is now on upcoming upgrades aimed at reducing weight and improving performance, with the goal of returning to consistent points finishes and staying in contention for fifth in the championship. Ultimately, this season has become a major test of Williams' rebuilding project and could play a defining role in shaping the team's future direction in Formula One. The upcoming races will therefore be crucial in determining whether Williams can turn its situation around or whether the early season struggles will define the rest of the year. The planned upgrades, starting with weight reduction and small aerodynamic improvements, are expected to bring at least some performance gain, but the team itself knows that there is no single fix that will instantly close the gap to the midfield. Instead, progress will likely need to come step by step, race by race, as the team tries to better understand the limitations of its current package and extract more from it. A key focus moving forward will be improving consistency. At the moment, the car is not only lacking outright pace but also behaving unpredictably, which makes it difficult for the drivers to trust it in different conditions. Building confidence in the car will be just as important as improving speed, especially as modern F1 requires drivers to push the limits in every session. If Williams can stabilize the platform and reduce the issues with balance and tire load, it would already be a significant step forward, even before major aerodynamic gains are introduced. At the same time, attention inside the team will remain on the longer-term picture. Despite the disappointing start, the 2026 regulations still represent a major opportunity, and Williams' overall strategy has not changed. The challenge now is making sure that the current problems do not slow down future development or drain resources that are needed for long-term progress. How effectively the team manages this balance could determine whether the rebuild continues on an upward path or stalls under pressure. For now, Williams finds itself in a difficult but defining phase. The potential is still there, but it is being tested more than expected. The response in the coming months will show whether the team can overcome its current weaknesses and return to the midfield fight, or whether this season will expose deeper issues that require a more fundamental reset. Looking further ahead, Williams will also need to confront the reality that modern Formula One development cycles are extremely unforgiving. Once a design direction is established, especially under the cost cap, it becomes increasingly difficult to completely reverse course without sacrificing valuable time and resources. This means that any structural weaknesses in the current car concept may not be fully resolved until a later phase of development, potentially stretching into the following season. Internally, this period will also test the strength of the team's technical leadership and factory operations. The issues experienced so far suggest that the gap between design intentions and on-track performance is larger than expected, which often points to challenges in correlation between simulation tools, wind tunnel data, and real-world results. Closing that gap is essential for any team aiming to consistently compete at the front, and Williams will need to refine these processes if it wants to avoid similar setbacks in the future. Driver confidence will remain another critical factor. Both Albon and Sainz are experienced enough to adapt to difficult machinery, but sustained frustration can affect feedback quality and overall morale. Ensuring that both drivers remain fully engaged in development work will be vital, as their input is one of the fastest ways for the team to identify weaknesses and guide upgrades in the right direction. Without that stability, progress becomes even harder in an already challenging environment. Despite the current difficulties, there is still a clear belief within Williams that the foundation of the rebuild is not broken, but simply under pressure. The investment, restructuring, and long-term planning put in place over recent years were designed specifically to avoid short-term thinking and build sustainable competitiveness. However, Formula One often tests patience, and results inevitably shape perception, both inside and outside the team. Ultimately, Williams now stands at a crossroads between expectation and reality. The promise of a long-term resurgence is still alive, but it is being challenged more seriously than at any point in the recent rebuild. The next stages of the season will not only determine where Williams finishes in the standings, but also how much confidence remains in the direction it has chosen. Whether this year becomes a stepping stone or a warning sign will depend entirely on how effectively the team responds under pressure. The next phase of Williams' season will therefore be less about chasing headline results and more about steady recovery and learning. Every upgrade introduced will need to serve a dual purpose, improving immediate performance while also feeding valuable data into the long-term 2026 project. In a cost-cap era, no development path exists in isolation, meaning that even short-term fixes must be carefully evaluated for their impact on future competitiveness. A key priority will be refining the car's operating window. At the moment, the package appears to perform inconsistently depending on track layout, temperature, and setup direction. This kind of variability makes it extremely difficult for engineers to establish a stable baseline. If Williams can broaden that operating window, even slightly, it would allow both drivers to extract more consistent performance and reduce the risk of unexpected fluctuations across race weekends. At the same time, the team will need to manage expectations both internally and externally. The early season struggles have already created pressure, but rebuilding projects in Formula One rarely follow a smooth upward curve. Setbacks like these can either derail momentum or act as turning points, depending on how effectively the organization responds. For Williams, maintaining belief in the overall direction will be just as important as solving technical problems on the car. Attention will also remain fixed on operational efficiency at the factory. Small gains in